And finally, I want to talk about both from the interviewer's point of view, but also from the candidate's point of view. The interviewer should leave time at the end for the candidate to ask any questions, and the candidate should ask questions. So I think from an interviewer's point of view, it's simple: have enough time, give the person the platform. What should the candidate do?
Absolutely. And this is a big part of the interviewer's role as well. I mentioned you have the intro, you've got the main body is the interviewer question, and at the time it's the candidate's question. At least 10 minutes, at least, because you're selling as well as buying. And good candidates have other options. So sometimes I've had interviews where I've had candidates say, do you have any questions? Nope, no questions.
Mm-hmm.
That is a terrible, terrible impression. You are talking about taking a full-time role where you're going to spend more time during the week with us than with your family. And you haven't got a single question about what it's like to work here, or whether or not someone's a good manager, or whether or not this business is going to be successful. Like having zero questions is a big negative. Never run out of questions. And it's easy to have a long list because you probably will only have time for 2 or 3 questions, maybe 4 max. So I find some great questions for a candidate.
Are there areas I should avoid? For example, I shouldn't probably say how much you're going to pay me, or what are the holidays like? Right? There may be some things that I should not ask about.
Kind of depends. I mean, I generally wouldn't lead with the comp. Because it also depends if there's a recruiter in the mix, because sometimes you can use a recruiter as a candidate to ask some of those awkward questions. That's their job, to be that shuttle diplomacy between. I think first, some great questions are, okay, this role, what happened to the person who was in it before? Is it a new role? Is it, was somebody in there? Oh, well, they were terminated. Why were they terminated? Performance. Why were they terminated for performance? Well, they couldn't achieve their goals. Why couldn't they achieve their goals? So you're doing the same investigative journalist in reverse.
The 5 whys. Yeah.
5 whys here. Like, oh, well, they couldn't achieve their goals because it turns out they didn't have all of the team budget to hire all the roles they need, but they still failed to achieve their impact. And now you start to realize, oh my goodness. So one of my favorite questions is, how is this role set up for success? So you want to understand, is it a new role? Who already existed? How is this role set up for success? Is a great question because it's very open-ended. Because you may have a newly created role. Oh yeah, we created a new role. We have this new, director role responsible for all this. Okay, well, someone was making those decisions before with a different title. Are they on board with this, or are you actually encroaching on somebody else's toes? Do you have budget to do this? So we want you to transform the business using generative AI. Okay, do I have any budget for it? Do I have buy-in from the other teams? Are my goals aligned with these other teams? So another fantastic question, one of my favorite questions for candidates to ask. Imagine I join your company in this role, whatever the title is of this role. And 12 months after I join, we are celebrating a tremendous year of impact. Tremendous. What will have changed? What will have changed for the customers? What will have changed for the business performance? What will have changed for our teams and organizations? What will have changed? And you suddenly will get great, crisp answers. 2, 3 things are the most important. So even though the job description listed 50 items that you're supposed to do, you suddenly have this revelation. Your performance review in the first year is based on getting these 3 things done. Get this long, slogging transformation over the finish line, build a great team, bring the market something commercial can sell. Oh, okay. Now I actually have something I can work with. So that actually is a really useful question. One last super valuable question for candidates to ask in the interview. Well, by the way, first I should say, be consistent in asking everyone these questions of what does success look like. Because what you're also testing for is wildly different answers from different functional areas. So maybe, the person from finance has a totally different view of what success is, or the person from commercial, or the person from product. That's a red flag. I mean, you guys aren't aligned with what this role is supposed to do. So So ask those questions. It also, asking what some of the big challenges are. What holds this business back is a great one. So before I get my last question, I should say there's a couple other useful ones you could have on your list of what does a week in the life of this role look like is a pretty good one. What's the pace of work, depending on what it is. What is maybe across the whole business, what is the biggest opportunity and challenge facing this business unit or this business or this company, which shows a little curiosity of direction outside of your particular role. So you should never run out of questions.
But what I'm hearing there, by the way, Sean, is two things. Number one, as an interviewer, I'm thinking this person switched on and they want to help us be successful. Yes. I like this candidate. I want to hire them. And secondly, from the candidate's point of view, I now know what I have to do in my first 90 days. Like I now know where I need to put my shoulder because I know what's expected of me in a year's time. I'm not guessing.
And it shows curiosity. And you'd be surprised how many candidates don't show curiosity. Especially if you need to assume for any job you're interviewing for, at the final round, there's going to be a slate of 4 or 5 amazingly qualified candidates exactly in that domain. There's just a big supply and demand shift happening here. You want to be able to stand out, and curiosity in the business and what helps them succeed will really cut through. Now, the very last question a candidate should ask, the very, very, very end, should be a very last question to each interviewer. You look them in the eye and you ask them, based on all we've discussed, do you have any reservations about putting me in this role?
Wow.
And what you're doing, you've asked it in a very nice way. Mm-hmm. You're asking them to make a hiring decision in the moment. And then you're going to see their eyes kind of like, well, and they're going to, for the most times, they're going to articulate, well, I like the fact that you've had this and you've accomplished this. I'm concerned about your ability to dive deep. And that gives you an opportunity in 30 seconds. We didn't get to it, but there is this example here where we had a whole business that, was losing money. And I dug in and it turns out that, nobody ever turned off these old AWS instances and we were running hot. And by turning that off, we made the company profitable. Mm-hmm. And you've had a chance to mitigate.
But you didn't dive off then into another half-hour spiel, did you? You crystallized it down to like 20 seconds. Yeah.
It's got to be super. Yeah. Because this is the end of your interview. Super concise on it, but you're just trying to give them evidence to help them feel you can do this.
Yeah. Amazing, Sean.